一个星期工作几天呢？
一个星期工作7天。早上是从6点半开始上班，上到晚上的12点，12点以后有的加通宵，有的加到2点、4点。
这都是什么玩具呢？
这都是迪士尼的狗仔啊，还有公仔。
När ni ska köpa någon leksak, vad tänker ni på då?
Att det ska vara rolig, att det ska vara fin. Ja, fin. Ja.
Var tror ni att leksakerna är tillverkade? Det som gör dem?
I andra länder eller ja.
Tomtens verkstad.
Något asiatiskt land av alldeles för unga barn kanske, jag vet inte.
Ja. Halloween har ju, som vi alla vet, kommit från USA. Det är ju här för att stanna, det är ju populärt än någonting annat. Och då, masker är ju en sak. Då har kinesen tänkt till, så då har han lagt lite ljusdekoder i här så att det ska lysa upp.
Hur ligger lönenivåerna för de som arbetar i er produktion?
Inne i Kina, det är ju billig arbetskraft. Annars skulle aldrig produktionen ligga där borta, så självfallet är det så. Om det är någonting att spara och leva på äldre dag, det tror jag inte.
Hur mycket av produktionen här kommer från Kina?
Sortiment som man har till hösten så kommer 95% ifrån Kina.
In Europe, we spend more than $20,000 billion on toys and games every year. A large part of these toys are bought at Christmas time. But who makes these toys?
När jag var liten fick jag reda på att det var barn som gjorde de här leksakerna på McDonalds. Då ville inte jag ha dem längre. För att det var andra barn som gjorde det. Jag tror det var vuxna eller maskiner som gjorde det. Så jag vill inte ha McDonalds längre. McDonalds-leksaker. Fast annars skulle jag fortsätta köpa dem.
In August 2000, it was revealed that one of the factories making toys for McDonald's employed child labor. The factory was situated in China, where most of the world's toys are made. We decided to go there and investigate the current conditions in the toy factories. Here in Hong Kong, we met one of those who exposed the poor working conditions at the McDonald's supplier. His name is Parry, and he has studied conditions in the toy industry for several years.
This is Hong Kong, and what you can see here is the Victoria Harbour, and opposite side of here is the central business district of Hong Kong. All the big toy companies all have their office here.
Formerly a British colony, Hong Kong was reunited with China in 1997. Hong Kong still retains a degree of autonomy, enjoying more freedom and democracy than the rest of China. Here, toys are sold to buyers from all over the world.
The pirate ship is available in Sweden.
In what shops can you find it?
Is any BL shop in Sweden? Or ICA? ICA, yeah? Yes. And Holland as well.
What sort of things are the buyers interested in?
Buyer normally interested in pricing.
The deals are done in Hong Kong, but production is contracted out to factories employing millions of people on mainland China.
We have to understand what is the impact for the worker. The first impressions may be the workers can get a job. It's better than to be unemployed. But we have to ask what kind of job they can have. Is this a decent one? Really can help their life or help their family, or the kind of job that can really make their life even worse.
An hour's drive from Hong Kong takes us to Shenzhen, the nearest town on mainland China. We are travelling as tourists because the Chinese authorities would never give us permission to film as we intend to. Development has progressed very quickly here. 25 years ago, there were only fields and small villages in this region. This is where most of what we buy is manufactured. from clothes and shoes to games, computers and toys. We took good time in preparing our visit here, and we were able to obtain permission from some Scandinavian toy companies to film in some factories. The companies themselves chose the factories in which we were permitted to film. In this factory they make plastic toys and toy vehicles for many companies across Europe, including the Scandinavian companies Coop, ICA, Top Toy and Åhléns.
How hot is the material?
The plastic temperature usually is around 200 degrees Celsius. Yeah.
So that's why it's also hot in here.
Very hot. The environment is hot. But in the summertime, the temperature of this workshop is higher.
It becomes even hotter when we enter the department where the toy vehicle parts are cast. The air is stifling and it's difficult to breathe. A note posted on a wall warns of our visit, and workers are told to remove any scrap that may block the walkways before our arrival.
We have mostly women workers. How many percent?
Women worker 90%, more than 90% in our factory.
Why?
Because easy to manage. Easy to manage. And mostly the workers come from the faraway provinces of China.
Why?
Because in the faraway provinces, some of the places are poor. They have no choice to go to here to get better salary.
How many of your workers, of 2,000, how many are migrant workers from north?
Mostly they are come from the faraway provinces. No local residents. Yeah.
We cannot interview workers because it may cause problems for them. Instead, the Hong Kong Christian Industrial Committee, which exposed McDonald's, conducts covert interviews with anonymous workers from a number of factories. What this worker describes violates both Chinese law and the ethical codes of the Scandinavian companies.
Vi har skrivit in i vår policy att man ska ha en hel ledig dag i veckan. Och man får inte överskrida då lokala bestämmelser om maximal arbetstid.
It will become more obvious that these rules are not applied. Here, the Swedish and Chinese flags are flown side by side, as the Swedish company Brio is one of the factory's biggest customers.
Nu när vi tar ett steg närmare Kina, då måste vi också vara väldigt aktiva i vårt kontrollarbete. För annars går det inte ihop med vad Brio står för.
We question how Brio check the working conditions here.
Have Brio been here? Have they visited?
Yeah, they are. They have been here quite a few times.
What are they interested in when they come to the factory?
Well, basically just looking for some new products and making some new set. Just telling us what's the market situation, things like that.
Through covert interviews, we learn that they are often forced to work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is illegal and in breach of Brio's rules.
Just like in the garment industries or in the footwear industries, sometimes the peak season comes, the workers have a lot of overtime. We check in some factories in the peak season when demand in the United States or in Europe is fine, and then the brand name will suddenly place an order to the factories with a very short production lead time. Then in these cases, the workers are asked to do overtime continuously for several days, and sometimes they even cannot sleep at night.
During the lunch break in Mr. Lai's factory, two women support another woman who has just fainted.
Some of the workers want to save the money. In the early morning, they didn't eat the breakfast. After a long time of working, maybe they feel very tired and then feel some sickness only. No big deal. Very soon she will recover.
But so they want to save. You said breakfast was like 1 yuan.
Not expensive, yeah.
But why?
But some of them they want to save more money.
They prefer no holiday. They prefer continue working.
Or actually, they prefer better wages. They don't prefer to work all the time, but.
Oh, this is not reasonable request. This is not a good thinking. To work less, get more money.
Through an underground organization in China, we at last get the chance to interview some workers. We meet them one evening in a windowless room. We may film them, but we cannot show their faces fully. They work in the electronics industry, where working conditions are similar to those in the toy industry.
130、140，也就休息也要休息的嘛，你不可能天天加班，这我们也受不了。即使再愿意加班的人也会受不了的。
如果你有多一些的工资的话，你会不会很在乎加班？想不想再加班？
不想。
To be very honest, the general complaint we get when we talk off the record with some workers is that they're not very happy about the limit on overtime during the peak season.
Top Toy is a Danish company that runs BR Leksaker and Toys R Us in Scandinavia. They seem to be unable to see any connection between the low wages and the workers' willingness to work overtime.
So why do you think they want overtime?
Because they can earn more money.
So do you think they make a living wage on their normal 8-hour stay?
The living costs in the factories are covered by the dormitories, by food, by healthcare. So if the worker really wants, they can probably stay in the factory and feel safe.
In the factories there are dormitories and canteens where almost all migrant workers sleep and eat. The low wages render other options impossible.
Workers should have a choice to stay or eat inside the factories or outside the factories. The different ways should be enough for the workers to stay and live outside. This should be their choice.
The workers live in cramped quarters, often 12 to 20 in a room. The only storage for private possessions is in their beds. Wages have, in principle, remained unchanged for several years, while prices in this region have gone up by several 100%. As a result, workers are forced to live their lives inside the factories. Their wages wouldn't last long outside the factory walls. In some of the factories we visit, the working environment is very poor. Often the noise level is very high and only a few workers have earmuffs. Protective equipment is inadequate or even non-existent. Workers tell us that they burn and cut themselves and their arms are marked with scars.
The most serious problem is that it damages their health very much. Sometimes it's not about the problems of the machine. It's only because they have to work for long hours and they cannot concentrate on their work and they make mistakes and then they hurt themselves.
What accident can happen?
Sometimes the workers, maybe they are very tired and then they forget, and then when there's a manual operation, the workers maybe accidentally didn't pull away the arms and then the boat close suddenly. Yeah, this is the problem.
And then what is the injury?
Injury, hurting the fingers or something like that. Sometimes burn the skin also, maybe due to the very hot plastic materials.
Amongst the most serious accidents that occur are fires. The worst factory fire to date occurred in a toy factory in Thailand. On the 10th of May 1993, hundreds of young workers were trapped in a fire because emergency exits were blocked. Although the factory was several stories high, there were no fire escapes. 188 people died and 469 were injured, most of them young women.
แต่เหตุการณ์ที่ไฟไหม้เนี่ยก็คือไหม้ตอนเย็นที่คนงานจะเลิกงานแล้วเนี่ยแล้วก็เพื่อนที่อยู่ชั้น4เนี่ยพอควันขึ้นมาเยอะๆเพื่อนก็วิ่งเหยียบกันก็รู้สึกว่ามันออกทางประตูไม่ได้แล้วก็เท่าไหร่ก็เลยตัดสินใจว่ามันมองไม่เห็นพื้นแล้วเนี่ยตัดสินใจครั้งสุดท้ายก็คือว่าจะต้องรอดชีวิตก็คือต้องโดดทางหน้าต่างแล้วอะแม้แต่เพื่อนที่พูดถึงเมื่อกี้ที่เขาท้องแล้วก็หาทางออกไม่ได้ก็คือต้องโดนไฟคลอกตายแต่ถ้าทางบริษัทเองมีบันไดหนีไฟให้แล้วก็มีสัญญาณเตือนภัยที่ดีให้กับคนงานเนี่ยคิดว่าก็คงไม่เกิดขึ้นแล้วก็คงไม่มีคนตายเยอะขนาดนี้
In November that year, a similar accident occurred in Shenzhen in China. The fires attracted worldwide attention, and the pressure on companies to shoulder their responsibility for health and safety and working conditions mounted.
ก็ต้องคำนึงถึงแรงงานหรือคนในประเทศนั้นๆว่าเขาจะได้รับสิทธิหรือว่าไม่ใช่ว่าคุณกะแต่ว่าจะลงไปเอากำไรหรือผลประโยชน์แล้วก็กอบโกยแล้วก็หนีกลับบ้านคุณ
As a consequence of these incidents, the toy companies began to impose ethical demands on their suppliers, so-called codes of conduct. The introduction of codes of conduct has led to improvements in the working environment in many factories. But what about working hours and wages? This is a leading supplier to the Swedish toy market. We ask if it is difficult to follow the codes of the Swedish companies.
We have passed different kind of control, like a quality control or ethical issues. We got different audits.
And you no problem. You have no problem to follow them.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem.
Do you always know when they come?
Normally, they will set up a certain date. Not telling you which time, but maybe that date they are coming, etc. Working 8 hours per day.
We are shown contracts setting out factory regulations, and we see wage lists and time cards.
Overtime work cannot be over 36 hours per month, etc.
All seems to be well and in accordance with Chinese law and the company's codes of conduct.
Where is the overtime?
加班就要就 OT 咯。
And for this is no overtime.
冇4分。
However, workers from the factory tell us that there is a system of false wage lists and time cards. The false lists that are shown when code controllers from the buyers call show much higher wages than those paid out. Prior to visits from the controllers, management warns workers not to talk about real wages and working hours. Workers are paid to give appropriate answers to the controllers.
你们客户来查厂多不多了？你们这边？
也经常有来查的，经常查，但是妈都查不到些什么的。
为什么呢？
因为人家做好准备的，你来查没有用的，对吧？人家做反正你有准备，你要查什么人家都知道了，对不对？人家就想你做好些了，你又来查也没有用了吧？现在
培训你们吧。
哎，是这样的。
完全是这个样子。那答对了有没有奖啊？你按照他教的说法回答客户问话。
答对了肯定有奖的。
奖多少呢？
奖50块钱。
Ja, alltså, om det är på det sättet så är det direkt obehagligt. Va? Jag kan bara säga att jag har inte fått någon rapport. När jag själv har varit har jag aldrig sett något sånt. Jag har inte heller gått och frågat efter om det finns några falska rapporter. Så det är inte så konstigt att jag inte har sett någonting.
Det ska inte vara så. Och nu säger du att det är så. Och då kan jag bara säga att det ska inte vara så. Du får tala om vilka fabrikerna är så ska vi ta itu med dem.
An investigation by the Hong Kong Christian Industrial Committee shows that 7 out of 9 suppliers cheat in this way.
Vad tror du det beror på?
Jag tror att det beror på att man vill tjäna pengar.
It costs money to follow the buyer's codes of conduct, but the suppliers say the buyers will not pay these extra costs.
If the selling price is too low, the profit of the factory will be low also. In such case, the factory cannot afford to provide the workers the salary. It is the very worst situation.
This soft toy manufacturer, who is a supplier to the Swedish market, agrees.
Sometimes I playing a joke with our customer. Okay, I'll follow everything you want. You raise the price 20%, and I'll do that. And you know they're not going to do that. They don't care. So you gave me a lead time of 90 days instead of 30 days, then I don't want to do the overtime. Nobody want to do the overtimes, right? But, well, this is order you have to ship within 30 days. Then overtime is obviously necessary.
We also have to look at the consumers, how much are they willing to pay for the product. You can't not overnight increase the price by 30%. You need time to make sure the customers actually understand that there is a link between the price you pay and what you get.
With the increasingly tough global competition, prices are kept low at the expense of the workers. Why don't the workers complain? Why don't they protest? Han Dongfang was one of the leaders of the student protests in Tiananmen Square 1989, where he and thousands of other students demonstrated for democracy in China. The army crushed the protests, which ended in a bloodbath. Han Dongfang was imprisoned and eventually deported to Hong Kong.
According to the trade union law in China, there's only one union allowed, which is official union, the Communist Party controlled union. And this organization, basically, it's a Communist Party branch in charge of controlling workers, make sure the workers don't know anything about union.
Han Dongfang is now working for the cause of Chinese workers in his radio program on Radio Free Asia and by writing for the China Labour Bulletin. As it is impossible to organize free trade unions in China, he gives workers advice by telephone on how to organize their grievances within the framework of the law and bring their cases to court. One day it is hoped Chinese workers will be allowed to form trade unions.
Organizing trade union is the permanent way of protecting workers' rights in this country, not only in this country but anywhere else. If you are 3 people fighting for this, you're scared. But if you have 300 people or 700 people, you're not scared anymore.
In Hong Kong there is an independent trade federation, the Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions. They claim to be the only free trade unions in China.
Since the 80s, when everybody in the world think that China has changed, think that China is becoming more and more open, is connecting with the West more and more, but almost all the workers who have tried to organize independent organizations have been arrested.
They have a union here. They can join if they want.
What complaints what are they working with?
They have the channel, but so far they didn't use it.
What do the union do then?
咁個 union 咪冇用咯，佢哋意思，即係個工會咪冇用咯。佢冇用嘅，而因為當地政府係要你有一個咁嘅工會喺度。
Government requires they need to have one union for them. Actually the workers can complain or whatever. I mean through this union, but so far they are not quite used to complain or what with this union.
We are able to meet a union representative from one of the factories.
都觉得这个他们都合理的接受了，没有什么感觉到什么要什么意见方面的没有的。我们从就是我工会我们就是觉得就是宗旨就是为员工还有解难的嘛，就是可能在这方面我们员工感觉到我们做的比较好。
在我们这里有独立的工会，可以发生，你们会怎样想？会有什么会发生？
这样子他会把你们炒掉的。厂里面不可以有工会的。
Well, worker always the demand I think from the worker is even bigger than the buyer. The worker always have endless demand.
In Thailand, workers are able to organise unions, and this has led to certain improvements.
ทีนี้มีสหภาพขึ้นมานี่มาเรียกร้องมันก็เปลี่ยนแปลงเราก็ว่ามันเปลี่ยนแปลงได้จริงเขาเรียกร้องมาให้เขาประชุมมาให้อะไรที่ได้มาเนี่ยเกิดจากสหภาพนั้นถ้าไม่มีสหภาพก็ไม่มีการเปลี่ยนแปลง
We meet Nawa and his workmates who work in a factory making toys for export to Europe. Conditions are better thanks to the union, but it is difficult to live on their wages. They live in a poor area. 3 of them share one small room. They show us a packet of toy motorcycles from their factory.
เวลายื่นข้อเรียกร้องสหภาพก็จะเจ๊งอะไรอย่างเงี้ยเจ๊งจะย้ายจะตกงานนะถ้าย้ายไปเมืองจีนก็จะพนักงานก็จะตกงานขู่ไม่ให้พนักงานเรียกร้องอะไรมากไปป่านนี้
All Asiatic countries feel the tough competition from China. Many Asian manufacturers have already relocated their production there. Because of its enormous population and repressive trade union laws, China can offer companies unbeatable low production costs. Employers in Thailand use the threat of Chinese competition when negotiating wages and working conditions. Thai workers are afraid to demand better wages because of the threat, and in China, employers cannot voice their demands. The environment is another victim of the huge expansion of the export industry in southern China. There are thousands of factories located along the Dongjiang River. Some of them are toy factories, which we have visited. Most of them release waste untreated.
We do the testing on chromium, lead, mercury, phosphorus and ammonia. And I think mercury is the one which we find is the most problematic one, because the testing results is 280 times higher than the national state requirements or regulations. We worried because people just drink the polluted water and also the contaminated fish, that will affect their health. For those research done on mercury, it said that you bring damage to the brain.
一般是那个厂排出来的，在上面那个厂上来，那个从哪里？
那你们一般就是用这些水来灌溉？
是啊。哦，那里有水啊？那这里都没有山水呀，没有什么啊，就是用那个厂水啊，哪有什么？
The pollution is a disaster for the poor who used to live by fishing this river.
这个水不能吃，也不能用，对人家全部所有人都有影响，对我们打鱼的渔民也有影响。就是那边嘛，那边那个深圳那边开沟了，那个抽水上面全部九江水呀，那个司马那里水那个水嘛，那些工厂里面放出的那些水嘛。
那个水真的下去几米，一人弯下去看得见的，现在一点看都不见。一点都看不见是吧？ 下去啊，在这里就有水板上，很干净的。现在那个水不行了，哎，太无残了。你看它那个水下去不说，下去摸都切的，臭死了。
Who is responsible for the environmental devastation and the poor working conditions that make possible the cheap production of the things we buy?
We are having more and more industries in the developing countries where they provide cheap labor. and the environmental rules is not that strict, and a big company trying to take advantage of that, and they are not trying to take their full responsibility to make sure that they don't pollute the area. And the main solution is that the companies take up their corporate responsibility to make sure that they don't pollute the place and the people.
Många människor är beredda att ta ett ansvar för miljön och för att den här leksaken absolut inte ska vara tillverkad utan barnarbetare och så vidare. Men jag tror våra slutkonsumenter, det såg vi när vi tillverkade i Sverige. Konsumenten är inte beredd att betala den extra pengen.
Om vi säljer produkterna i vår butik, då är vi ansvariga för produkterna.
ผมอยากให้ผู้ที่บริโภคผลิตภัณฑ์ของมาจาริตนะครับก็อยากให้มองว่าคนงานมาจาริตก็ไม่ได้สะดวกสบายอะไรประมาณนั้นครับเพราะว่าที่ผลิตกันมาเนี่ยก็ด้วยน้ำเหงื่อน้ำแรงก็ยังลำบากอยู่ครับยังลำบากอยู่แต่บริษัทก็ไม่เคยขาดทุนนะครับบริษัทไม่เคยขาดทุนก็อยากให้สนับสนุนนะครับแต่ให้รู้ว่าคนงานมาจาริตลำบากอยู่
我想问一下，你对厂里有一些什么意见呢？讲一下吗？是厂里面的嘛，就是希望那个管理人员管理方面能和善一点，那伙食呢应该低，还有那个上班时间嘛，尽量能缩短一点吧。尤其是晚上加班的时候，尽量不要加的太长了。